Thank you for tuning into another episode of Ericson Presents Mixing Tutorials. Today, I want to do a video that I feel was very enlightening for me, so therefore it would probably work for you. Being that we all have home studios, most of the people who are probably watching this channel who are probably starting out, like me, the last time I was in a professional studio, like a actual professional studio, was before I started putting together my own studio. After that, I really didn't have a reason to be in another studio because I had a studio. I did go to some people's studios, just to go, but as far as working and being an audio engineer, like I never really had a reason to work outside of my own room. So when I went to LA, I actually got the opportunity to work in a professional studio. We were at the Room Melrose, I think that's how you say it, and just working in there like with my trained ears now. Because I mean, before I was just working, but this time I was actually working in there and I was listening to the room and I was actually critiquing like my own setup and what I actually want to do with my setup. So today I want to give you the 5 things that I learned from working in a LA studio that I want to apply to my own. So let's get to it. All right, so the first thing that I peeped out when I was working in that studio was the speaker placement, and I have my speakers pretty far apart from each other compared to how far apart they had in that room. In that room, I believe they had a monitor, like a stretch monitor, and on each side of the speaker, each side of the monitor, there was a speaker placement, and the sound field still felt good. It just got me thinking, like maybe I'm going a little too wide in my studio, which is putting my listening position further back. Now I do have some MTMs in here, and they are closer together, but and because they're closer together, I'm assuming that's the reason why I like mixing on them better, because I can get closer and work on the mixer board. So for me, that was like a light bulb moment, like maybe I can put my focals a little closer together and get them away from the walls. So that is actually going to be one of the things that I'm going to change coming up in the studio. So speaker placement, they don't have to be that far apart. I know a lot of people actually do have their monitors closer together. My focals are not. They are probably maybe not even 5 feet, maybe 4 feet apart. But those other monitors, they were a lot closer. And when I look at other rooms, I do actually see that they'll have like some NS10s or, a lot closer than I would have expected them to be. So that to me was just, it just got me thinking maybe I could actually get a better sound field if I move them just a little bit closer together. So that's number one. Number two, okay, so as I was working in there and I was sitting back and I was listening to the room, like that for me helped out tremendously because, making your own home studio and then you're doing acoustic treatment, and then I make these sound panels and I got 1, 2, 3, I got 6 of them. I got 2 on my side. I have 2 as bass traps. I have 1 above me and then I have 1 directly behind me. But listening to the way my voice sounded just speaking in that room, listening to music being played back to me in that room, it gave me the knowledge that let me know just how loose my room is. Because the sound in that room was a lot tighter. It was very tight. When I was out of the listening position, it was almost as if the music wasn't as loud. That's how much the sound was controlled from bouncing around the room. And then when I got into the listening position of where I was engineering from, it was like all the sound and energy was just coming at me. Like I was able to hear energy that I don't necessarily hear in this room, which got me thinking that I do need to retune the room and go a completely different way, because there's songs that in there had so much energy in them, and in here they did not have as much energy, only which will only make me add more energy to my records. And when you get to the playback, it's gonna have too much. So, yeah, now that I know exactly the sound of the room that I'm going for, because I mean I worked in there 2 times for a total of 10 hours, because each day was 5-hour sessions. So yeah, 10 hours working in a room, you're gonna learn a lot. So that's one of the things that I really enjoyed about the room. What I am gonna do is I want to do a fabric wall system where I'm going to literally take all these panels off the wall. I'm going to take this wall down because I do have a soundboard that's behind that wall, and I have a soundboard that's behind this wall as well. But this is my house, so I really don't need this soundboard over here. But this wall right here, I live in a townhouse, and on the other side of the wall is obviously the other townhouse. And I actually asked my neighbor, like, hey, have you ever heard me in here, like, heard music just coming out of here? And she was like, I've never heard you do anything out of there. So the soundboard's obviously working because, I mean, there's times where I'm cranked. But, I mean, there was one time she did bang on the wall when I was working on an 808, and I just had the sub on. But yeah, that is gonna happen. So I'm gonna, and then with this window right here, I think what I'm gonna end up doing is I'm gonna create some. Well, I'm not gonna do it. My boy's gonna do it because he's handy like that. But I'm gonna create a removable panel that I can literally sit inside the window. So when I want to mix and I need the room to be perfect on all corners, then I'll put the soundboard in the window, and that will be acoustically treated the same way the rest of the walls are. So it'll just close off the room, because right now this window is not even centered, and it's giving me reflection problems. So I'm probably going to do that all around the room. And then I'm probably going to end up building well, I do have some diffusers, and I'll see how those work. But yeah, I might just end up building my own just to make it look better. Number 3. One of the things that I learned about working in that room, and what you guys are probably going to learn as well, is I'm so much better of an engineer than I actually thought. And I mean, don't get me wrong, like, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I know what my value is to the artists that I work with. Because I'll just say because I've worked with a lot of things that weren't 100% tracked properly, or the vocals had problems, or instrumentation tracking problems, because I spend majority of my time dealing with that, and most likely you probably have too if your setup isn't 100% perfect. When you get to a setup that is perfect, mixing is so much easier. It's like I'm literally doing the same things that I was doing before. The only thing different is the material that I'm working with. And I was in there, and I'm literally, I plugged into my twin. So I didn't even use any of their equipment other than their microphone and their booth. I plugged my twin in, and I controlled everything from my twin. So I'm literally using my same preamps, using my same techniques, and the song sounds so much better. I mean, it is what it is. It's like it was almost like I felt like I was stealing candy from a baby, how easy it was for me to get the music to sound incredible. The vocals, the pop, like, very, like, just, it would, like, yeah. Having great recordings makes your life 1,000 times easier. And so, I mean, just so you just think about that. Like, if you are, dealing with vocals, and you're having problems, and you're going through so many different things to try to get that vocal to sit right in the music, and trying to fix this and fix that. When you do that one time, where that magical moment, when you do get something that's recorded, very flawlessly, and you get that recording, and then you start working on it, and you realize, oh, I don't have to sweep and try to find a frequency and take that. You don't have to do none of that. And then everything, like, anytime you raise something, it sounds good. When you don't raise something, it still sounds good. Like, that lets you know, like, okay, all these techniques that I'm learning to solve problems, you still can do that, but you don't necessarily have to. So now you can be a little more creative, and you can start doing things that it's just creative. That's the best way I can put it. Like, you can be a lot more creative when you're not solving problems. The fourth thing that I learned from that room is you do not need a subwoofer at all. You don't. You don't. The only reason why I would say a person would need a subwoofer is if their monitors aren't taking care of the low end. So you might need some better speakers. Like, I have these focals, and I mean, the low end is incredible on these. And then I also have these MTMs, and these low ends are very incredible as well. When we did turn the subwoofer on, the first night it wasn't on, and the second time I came in there, he said, well, it should be on because the other speakers wouldn't be on. But the problem was so basically it's bridged. So basically the way a subwoofer works, for those who don't know, you can plug your, you can have your output of your audio going into your subwoofer, and then you can have your monitors coming out of your subwoofer, so it creates a crossover point. So you can set the crossover on the subwoofer. So if you want to do, in your monitors, you want to stop, at 100 hertz, and you want the subwoofer to take care of 100 and below, then you can do that. So in that particular situation, it was set up like that, but the actual volume of the woofer was turned down. So when he turned it up, I heard the difference, but it wasn't like, oh yeah, this is a huge difference and we needed this, because we did not. If your speakers can produce, the information down there, and honestly, like, a subwoofer it shouldn't sound like there's hella bass coming out of your system. It should just sound like it's complementing the rest of the frequency, like from the top to bottom. So it shouldn't sound super bass heavy. If it's bass heavy, then you're most likely going to have thinner mixes, because you're going to pull back trying to compensate for that. So if you're going to set up a subwoofer, like, I would definitely talk to somebody who knows a little better about that. I do have a subwoofer that I don't even turn on. I actually unplugged it, because at this point there's no point in me using it, because I just don't need it. The fifth and final thing that I learned from working in a studio in LA is how a booth can really, really be the difference. Like a well-treated booth. Like, I'm literally sitting there and I'm doing the same exact tracking process. I'm using the same exact everything. I didn't switch nothing up. And it's just sounding so much better. I'm just sitting there in awe, like, God, this sounds good. Like, it just sounds better. Like, everything sounds better. So, yeah, having a sealed, soundproof booth, because I mean, at that particular studio, we were in Studio B. I wish we'd have got to Studio A, because every single time they turned up Studio A, the whole building felt it. They had these huge monitors in the room. I thought we were going to get that, but it was booked out. But yeah, in the control room, you can hear everybody else's music. Like, you just can't. Like, the control rooms is like, they didn't really care about soundproofing those. But the booths, once that door's shut and that artist is in there recording, like, all that other noise that's around is not showing up. And I can actually turn the music up and hear what the artist is doing, like, very loud. Like, in my studio, I don't track very loud, because that booth is not 100% soundproof. So what did that translate to when me coming home? Well, this is what it translated to. So, I was talking to a guy off the channel, True Sound Studios. I can't remember the dude's name, but True Sound Studios is his channel, and in all of his videos, he always talked about, if you want to get in contact with me, just leave a message on Instagram and I respond to everybody. And sure enough, he responded. So we were talking about the room, and he was giving me ideas, and I was telling him about the booth. And what I should do, or what I should have done, was, instead of allowing my roommate to move in, I should have just kept that room vacant and used that room as a booth. Because I mean, the way he put it is, if you're going to track drums, would you track them in a small room or would you track them in a big room? And I mean, obviously answered, in a big room. He was like, well, that's the same for a voice. Like, you can't really expect to get big results out of your voice if you're tracking in a small booth. And most closets are small booths. So that made a lot of sense. So what I should have done was I should have just made that room right here, the entire room, because this is my smallest room in the house. I could have made that a booth, and then I could have not put that wall up, and I could have had this as the control room and actually gained an extra 3 feet in here. So my plan was to actually take the booth down and then treat the room all the way around and then start tracking vocals inside the room. And a lot of people like doing that because the room is bigger. It will kind of give that same feel. So I was thinking about doing that until I had a session. And then that was yesterday. I had a session come through here yesterday. And the amount of noise that people make while they're just sitting in here, like, there's no way I can take the booth down. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to leave the booth up for now. And then in the event that my roommate does decide that he wants to move on to another situation, and then I will make that the booth, and then I will take the booth down. So that's how it's going to work. Booth stays up until that room becomes 100% available, and then I'll turn that into the booth, and then the booth comes down. So bam, that's what we're gonna do. And I really think that actually would be better because then I can soundproof that whole entire room, and then I don't have to worry about soundproofing this room. And then when I'm recording vocals, I can actually, people can be in here, they can be sitting, they can be talking, they can be doing whatever it is that they do. So those are the 5 things that I learned from working in a studio in LA, and I think that it's gonna help me out in the long run. I don't know when I'm gonna start this build because I got in contact with the fabric wall company, and I sent them an email. They haven't responded. So I gotta figure another way. I saw a number on there. I didn't even realize there was a number. So I'll probably try to contact them and try to get this project moving forward. Because yeah, I definitely got to get my room to sound like it did in LA. Because if my room sounded like that, then I know for a fact all of my music would be golden. So anyhow, that is the video. I mean, it looked like it turned out longer than I thought it was going to be, but hopefully the information is worth it to you. If you are interested in more techniques and more anything when it comes to this stuff, please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification button. I'm also doing video reviews or song reviews from an audio engineer standpoint. So I'm listening to mixes and, you know, I'm critiquing mixes and what I like about them and stuff. And I'm listening to them on the Folk House, which are very detailed when it comes to mixes. So I have 2 up already. So go check those out. I know I did the new Cardi B song was my first one. So yeah, just check it out. And if you like it, subscribe to your boy. Anyhow, other than that, I will catch you guys in the next one. Doses.